Hello, this is Stories from Real Life host Melvin E. Edwards. On my weekly podcast, my guest and I share stories. They might be humorous, or educational, or surprising. The way I get them to tell their stories is by asking questions. I do my research, and then I ask them questions to make them think. Sometimes, I ask them questions that they never could have expected. Those are the best questions because of the reactions I get.
Well, if people could see me right now, they would see a big smile on my face because that's a great question.
Oh, you start right in with the tough question. Ooh, that's a good question, Melvin. Oh, no one's ever asked me that question before. That's a good one.
Tune into Stories from Real Life every Tuesday morning on your favorite podcast platform. You never know who my next guest might be, or what questions I might ask them.
There's always more to the story. Join your hosts, Dr. Eric Shaw, prosecutor Ryan Frank, writer Adrian Bonenberger, and comedian Ryan Connor as they follow up on the most recent episode of Baggage. This is Carry On.
All right, everybody, welcome to the podcast. This episode of Carry On. We got the whole crew back, fortunately. Adrian and Ryan are back with us. And Ryan, your house did not burn down.
Still That's standing. Nice.
Yeah, really excited about that too. Yeah,
who wouldn't be?
That's true. I guess. Yeah, your house isn't burned down.
Dude, the crazy thing is, we were recording here, and I think it was the night that the fire started when my fire alarms in the house started going off, and I thought the whole shit was burning down. And it turns out it was our. Oh no, that was a week before. Never mind. It was no.
It is funny though.
It was our new HVAC. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. We shared the HVAC story on one of the last Carry On episode, actually. Mm-hmm. And it was during the recording of Dr. Ryan's episode. And I just think it's, I don't know, it's funny, but it's kind of ironic that like the last time the listeners heard from you, your fire alarm's going off, is your house on fire. In the next episode, you're not available because you're running from fires. I mean, LA is a dangerous place.
Well, dude, that moment did tell me what I would do, if there's a fire. The people are like, what'd you bring? What would you bring? I'm like, I just bring my dog. That's about it.
Yeah, I mean, was Rachel there?
Yeah, I mean, of course I bring her too. But she,
well,
she
that's
has,
awkward.
Will. She can.
What if it was
walk.
What if it was just the HVAC unit? That's what it is. You don't know that. You just run out and you're just out in the car, and you have to explain to Rachel why you left the dog. You left her, right?
Well, have you ever seen
awkward.
The movie Force Majeure?
No.
The Danish, or it's Norwegian or Danish, I can't remember. The original. There was a awful remake with Will Ferrell. Do you watch the Nordic one? It's incredible. So what happens? This family is at this ski resort. And Adrian, have you seen this? Or are you just hooked? You just in?
He's just into it.
No, I've seen the original. It's super intense.
Okay. So this family's at this ski resort. This is the very beginning. So they're having a meal out on the deck of this like chalet, and all of a sudden they have an avalanche warning, and it's coming down. People don't realize that it's built in order to avoid the avalanche, right? Not everyone understands it. Well, the mother and kids get under the table. The dad just books it. He just takes off and runs. And then he realizes that it went under the deck and that everything was fine. And this is just something that happens there. And he tries to like mosey back in, and he's like, we're all okay, right? And they're like, you left us. And so the whole movie is the fallout of him leaving and him swearing he did not leave.
I'm just thinking of the Seinfeld episode where they're at the like kids party and the smoke alarm goes off and George is like running out of the room, like pushes the clown over, pushes the kids over to get out of the room.
Now, my wife, the way she tells the story, I did that. I don't think I did that, but we were camping. No, we weren't camping. It was at a camp, whatever. It was a lake house or whatever. My parents had rented a lake house. Whole family's vacationing, and late night, everyone's gone to bed. It's just me, my wife, and my sister are sitting out folding chairs like around a campfire that's burned out. Like it's the end of the night, right? And we're just sitting and chatting. And To my left is my wife, and to my right is my sister. And I look over, and it's dark because the campfire's out. And I look over, and I see some movement, and my mind's trying to figure out what it is. And it's one of the empty folding chairs. It's underneath there, so it's on the other side of my wife, probably 10 feet away, and it's kind of like lumbering. Something's lumbering underneath the chair, and I'm like, raccoon, and then it hits me. This is a skunk, and it's a very big skunk, 10 feet away from me. I yell skunk, and I start moving towards the inside of the house. Now, what I've done at that point in my mind is I need to get out of the way because, like any rational person, you're going to run like hell when you hear the word skunk.
You did
I'm
your job.
thinking,
You warned everybody.
Job is done. Job is done. I'm not saying save yourself, but let me move my body out of the way. I faster than you so that the path is clear for you. And I make it to the sliding glass door at the back of the house. I open the door. I get in. No one's immediately on the deck yet. So just in case the skunks start spraying, I shut the door. I'm not shutting them out. I'm not keeping them from going in the house. But admittedly, from my wife's perspective, I have now yelled skunk, got up, ran, and shut the door to the house. So it looks bad for me. I'm not looking great in this scenario. Found out after I did that, my sister was a little slow in the uptake about what's going on, but they finally figured it out. My wife is saying, I'm not going to abandon your sister. You just yelled skunk. I want to make sure she knows what's going on so she gets out of there. So she's trying to get my sister up like, we got to go inside. Gets my sister going. She starts to run quickly or walk quickly or run. She kicks something large and furry and stumbles over it and ends up going into the house and doesn't realize until afterwards, oh my God, I just kicked the skunk. And it didn't spray. It never sprayed the entire time.
Well,
and the only thing so I say skunk. I see the skunk. I run. I'm inside. My wife kicks something furry. She doesn't know what it is. We're all inside. She's like, what's wrong with you? You abandoned me. And I'm really suspicious that it's a skunk. Not so much of a secret with people that know me. That's my phobia, skunk. Sharks don't care. Skunk is my phobia. So they think I just freaked out from seeing like a raccoon or a squirrel or something like that. The next day, skunk came back. It's sitting outside the back door. Vindication. It was a skunk the whole time. I was right.
Well, this brings us to our new segment, 2 comments and a question. Comment 1, I think you did everything you're supposed to do. It's a skunk. You called it out. You did your part.
Thank you.
And that's comment 1.
I needed that. You were the first person that's ever said that, but thank you.
Comment 2, I would say if it was, he's got a gun, then your responsibilities are relevant. You know what I mean? You can't wash that off with a tomato bath.
Shield. Exactly. Exactly. I'm going to shield you from spray. We're both getting sprayed. And save yourself.
3, I was going to ask, are Virginia skunks that skittish? Are they that trigger happy? Are they spraying that much? Because we have skunks everywhere, and they just look you in the eye, and then you just sort of nod, and then you just go in different directions. They don't spray you.
Well, this is, I don't know if it's state by state. I don't know if they adhere to
their
state rules. Right. Like a West Virginia skunk, totally different.
But I'm just wondering if it's like more rural, so they're like more surprised by people, whereas here they come across people and they're like, okay, they're not actually going to kick me.
Right. Well, this was my second skunk encounter. This particular skunk, I think it was people were there so often, and it's just like, camp food stuff left out, that they're just so used to people. It would probably take quite a bit to spook this skunk, and just was not scared of people whatsoever. I think that's why we didn't get sprayed. Now, before that, my dog in the backyard, I took him out to use the bathroom in the backyard one time, and he starts barking like crazy. I look out, and it's this little skunks out there, and it's like a juvenile skunk. And I'm like, oh my God. And he's just barking. Skunk turns around right in the dog's mouth, sprays him right in the mouth. And I was not allowed in the house for a few hours until we handled that situation. It didn't even spray me, but all my clothes still stunk.
What would you do if a skunk sprayed you in the mouth? Like what would I do? You would consider taking your life,
bridge,
right?
Probably. Yeah. What are you gonna do?
I text Eric and say, "Is there anything I can do?" He'd say, "Burn your tongue off.
Kill yourself."
Yeah.
It would be kind of interesting to go to a place that wouldn't expect a person to be smelling like skunk, like a really fancy
Yeah.
restaurant, and just see how they handle that. Like, sir, you cannot come in here. Like, what? What's wrong?
So this is a little bit of a change of subject, but we were talking about camping, and I just listened to. I mean, this is our carry on from the last episode. I just listened to it again today, and we were talking about camping stories on that one. Between the my friend almost shooting me through the tent, trying to get a raccoon or whatever it was. I wanted to tell like the most like bad behavior camping story that I have, particularly being here in Colorado, because that's kind of what we do in the summertime.
Your behavior?
Oh yeah, yes.
Oh, go
yes,
ahead.
very much
Yeah.
my behavior. My best friend and I out here, when we go camping, it's usually pretty debaucherous, and we do just like the most bizarro camping stuff. Like we're bringing our laptop computer and playing video games and listening to music and whatnot. And what we've learned is that kind of we talked about with Alaska, there's tons of public land in Colorado, and so we usually go to dispersed campsites where it's just us and there's nobody around for like a mile. We can be loud and obnoxious as we want to be because we usually are, and nobody minds. That was our mistake. We wanted to do our first 14er Mount Bierstad, and we wanted to get up early and get going. And the closest sites to the trailhead are like public campsites. And so we go to this campsite and we're imbibing and we're listening to music on like a stereo and we're playing video games as well. And like the time starts ticking by and it's dark. And usually like the polite thing at a public campground is like lights out at 9:00, right? And everyone has that like experience where like, God damn, those people won't just shut up. Like we're trying to go to bed. That was us that night. And by like 10:30, 11, we're in his pickup truck with the windows open, with the music blaring, passing the laptop back and forth because like the battery had run out and we had to plug it into the truck. And here's the kicker of the story, the punchline, if you will. At that hour, a woman and her husband came over and kind of like knocked at the window. And we're just like shocked that anyone has come and confronted us at all. And my friend kind of rolls the window down a little bit and he's like, "Can I help you?" And she's like, "It's quiet time. It's quiet time. Don't you know it's quiet time?" And we're like, yeah. Oh, Jesus. And like in that moment, we realized we were in the wrong, completely in the wrong. And we were like, just mea culpa. We're like, yep, you got us. We're going to turn everything off. We're going to be quiet. But the best part is like afterwards, the scenarios that we came up in our heads for what happened probably in the hour before that in their tent, and just the wife wearing this guy down, be like, well, you need to go say something to him. Well, they're clearly they're clearly inebriated. Like I don't really want to. I don't think it's safe to go. No. If you don't do it, I will. Oh, honey, let's just not. Like it's we're in the mountains. You never know what will happen. Like, and him just like getting worn down by this woman to come do it because like I admit I wouldn't do that. I don't think if someone was being loud at campsite, I would just swallow. I know that's happened. Like I've had plenty of times where I've just kind of swallowed that one. I'm just gonna have to sleep through this one.
Yeah. I remember in college we would have house parties in Fairfax, Northern Virginia. And whatever, it's 10, 11, maybe even midnight. Probably loud. It's a townhouse. People probably aren't thrilled by it, but we're across the street from a college, so it's not unexpected. And a guy came out one time and he goes, "Hey guys, I'm sorry." Just older gentleman, and he said, My wife is dying of cancer, and we just a little bit of peace. You guys, it's just a little late. If you could just cut off like 10:30 or something. And we were like, absolutely, absolutely. That's a pretty good request. So we chilled out for a while. I was like, yeah, that we were same. We were in the wrong. You don't know who you're living next to. But some time passed and we had the conversation. We're like, she's probably passed by now, right? We could probably start doing parties again. And it was fine. She didn't come back.
This just reminds me of college, where I was the person who every single night had to come in at about 1:00 and be like, "Can you guys please keep it down? I'm trying to sleep."
Yeah, because you didn't drink much.
No,
because college sober after midnight is a different experience.
Hey.
You just lose sleep because other people are being loud.
I was very, just never been interested in drinking a lot, and on top of that, value my sleep.
I was just going to say, as a coda to that, the smartest piece of advice that I gave my son before he went to college is that if the night isn't going great by about midnight, the odds of it getting better after midnight, especially when drinking's involved, are just like tiny.
Right.
That's
Nothing
like
positive
the
is gonna
best.
happen.
If you're having the best night of your life and it's midnight, okay, I've got your back, but otherwise just pack it in.
That's good
That's
advice.
like, I remember Bill Simmons about 10 years ago. Yeah, he said, "Don't chase the night. If it's done, it's done. Call it."
Ryan, you wouldn't say you're a big drinker, are you? You a big drinker?
I'm definitely
No.
not. No.
No. I mean, I remember college, you were into wine coolers for a while, but you weren't really a big drinker.
I was a freshman year, absolutely.
True story. We go out to the bar the other night, and I tell my wife, I'm not drinking tonight. I'll stick with some non-alcoholic. So she comes back to the table with a pint, and I take a sip, and I'm almost a little annoyed. I was like, I asked for a non-alcoholic. She said, that's non-alcoholic. And it turned out to be Best Days Kolsch beer. And I tell you, you could not tell the difference. It's my new drink. No, this is no
Are you
joke.
putting me on? Are you putting me on? Or are you putting the listeners on right now?
I'm not putting you on. I swear.
Well, most non-alcoholic drinks, most of them are like versions of bad beers. You know what I mean? So it's like, I'm going to drink one that's not even good and it doesn't work.
Right.
So
I mean, what you'll say is, this is pretty good for a non-alcoholic beer.
Right.
No, this is not the case.
Well, what about like I'm just wondering what types they have, because like, say when I'm in a bar, and some people will say, well, do you have a Pilsner? Do you have a lager? I always go, do you have a Galaxy Ripple? Do they have a Galaxy Ripple or even an Electro Lime? Because that's the type of beer that I like.
It's almost like you were on the website. That they have those exact ones. Yes, they have those exact ones. Yeah, they got all kinds. They got IPAs, they got Kolsch's, they have a variety pack, so they're gonna have you covered.
A lot of our listeners are not sure where the courts are gonna land on visitation for their children.
That's a great point. If it's you're trying to live healthier or it's by court order, Best Day has you covered. So check out Best Day Brewing at bestdaybrewing.com. You can order online and ship it to your house, or you can look up where they sell it locally in your area and pick it up that way. So last episode, you guys ended up missing Beth, 911 dispatcher, shared a bunch of 911 stories, and Eric and I had the opportunity to share some. Have you guys ever had to call 911? Ryan?
Oh,
Adrian?
yeah.
We mean, oh yeah. What's going on?
I'm 44.
You could probably I don't know.
Everyone here is
Do you think
everyone's?
That's an interesting statistic. Have most people dialed 911 in their life? You think so?
Yeah.
I would think probably not. No? Okay. Why'd you have to dial 911?
I mean, it's been a few times. Well, my grandma had a stroke. I've had it called for me twice.
The banana.
That one, and when my arm got broken in 7 places.
That's less funny.
Yeah. I've had to call it. I mean, this isn't very fun, but a clear domestic violence thing that was happening down the hall from me.
That's awkward.
Yeah, and
didn't you guys call 911 on one of the dudes at one of the college parties?
Oh yeah,
I remember. I wasn't there for that. But I remember,
Ryan? Was it the dude with the knife who pulled the knife?
Did you guys tied him up or something? Didn't you?
No, that was high school. The knife was high school.
No, I'm talking about the RA pulled the knife.
Oh, see, I didn't live on campus.
Oh yeah,
this is super interesting to the listeners. Vague stories about random people in college. I think what you're talking about, Eric, is we had just a regular friends house party, probably a dozen people or so, drinking, having a good time, and a friend of a friend really partook in the alcohol to the extreme and started getting kind of handsy and violent and wanted to fight people. And I remember we cut him off. I actually had him calm down in my room. I took him up to my room. I was like, you just need to sleep it off. And he seemed kind of calm or whatever. We go downstairs and we hear, and he'd put his fist through my window. And we're like, oh my God, this is going to be all night. So everyone else clears out, and it's just like the core group is there, just like probably 4 or 5 people just trying to watch him. And I remember what was crazy about it is he didn't have alcohol for hours. It was like 3 or 4 hours, and he was still raging. And it got to the point where I was like, I don't feel like we can't be safe. I want to say there might have been a female there too. We were worried about this gets out of hand. I don't know. Like there was talk about how do we make him unconscious? Do we hit him in the head? That kind of stuff. And it got bad enough that this must have been probably 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. It's still going, and he wouldn't calm down. We got him in the backyard. We ended up locking him out, and like we had what's it called, wrought iron gates where like you can shut the sliding glass door to like put a gate up there, like and we locked it, and he was like shaking it, like trying to get in or whatever. I was like, we got to do it, we got to call the cops. So they arrested him, and he walked from the police station back to our house the next morning, just like, head sunk. And he's like, I'm sorry. I think that was the last time I ever saw him. Like, yeah, that was a wild, wild night.
The only time I've ever called 911 was it's lame. It's not the only time I ever had to call 911. I was coming back from DC probably to visit my sister. I was on the Jersey Turnpike, and they've got there's like the middle lanes, which are like the faster lanes, and then they've got the outer like parts of the highway that are for local exits on the Jersey Turnpike. And I'm on the inner part because I'm driving as quickly as I possibly can to get back to Connecticut. And I saw somebody, a car just wipe the fuck out, like Gran Turismo style, just going end over end. And I grabbed my cell phone from the passenger seat and picked it up. And I was like, I think I'm between exit 3 and 4 on the Jersey Turnpike. I just saw, I think, somebody die, basically. And that's the only time I've ever called 911. And it felt appropriate.
I think there's been sometimes I probably should have called 911, but with like my background and stuff, I've just kind of like stepped in and done things. But one that stands out to me is one of my coworkers. She's a former firefighter and she's a PA now. Do you guys remember a couple of years ago, there was a really terrible car accident in Denver where a semi-truck brakes went out and slammed into rush hour traffic, like right under a bridge, and like 7 or 8 people burned to death? Do you guys remember that story? No. Anyways, she was literally like 1 to 2 cars up from being hit and was one of the first healthcare workers on scene because of that. But that's like one of those ones where, particularly for healthcare workers, if we see stuff happen, we tend to just kind of like jump in for 911 situations.
Ryan Frank, since you're so shocked that I called 911, here's 2 others. One, a wildfire broke out and it was brand new out here. So I was like, it had just started. So I called. They said they had a couple other calls, so we're good. And the other one, it was the first, probably the first one. It was very similar to Adrian's, except we were working at Deck America, job where Ryan and I worked in college, going door to door, setting up points for deck estimates. Arriving with this guy, Roy, who was an older man, he was sort of the Yoda of the group, if we want to be generous. And just in front of us on 495, the Capitol Beltway, this truck flips, rolls, then ends up landing on its wheels, and then goes hits the barrier in the middle, and then starts to go back, right? And me and our friend Mike and Roy are in the van. Mike and I are like, Roy, stop! And he goes, because this was like literally we're the next car, and Roy goes, it's all right, baby. We'll call 911, but we don't have time to stop. We got to get lunch, and then people getting home in an hour. So we didn't stop to help. We didn't see if the guy was okay. We called 911 and kept going so we could go to Jerry's Subs and Pizza to get Philly cheesesteaks.
Now thinking about that pragmatically, like what?
That's what 911.
Yeah,
is for.
what were you really going to add to that scenario?
I don't know. Help him get out of the truck.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, you're not supposed to move him.
Well, you're right. Or just be on the phone with 911 and be like, yeah, the guy's he's not dead.
Get information and stuff.
I'm with Ryan. I probably would have been like,
I feel like it should be there till they get there.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what. One time I called 911. It might have been the non-emergency number, but it was in the county where I prosecute. I saw a road rage incident where somebody stopped in the middle of the road and was blocking this dude and like getting out to confront him, and then goes back to their car, and like the guy drives off and this other car starts following him. And I'm like, this could be really bad. And like speeding, like one car's trying to get away, and they're like, so I call it in with the plate and everything like that. And they recognize my name apparently over the radio. So I had court that day. So I'm in court, and in between cases, the deputy that responded came up to me and he was like, hey, yeah, I responded to that call you called in. But actually the person that, so somebody had called in saying, hey, there's a road rage incident. I'm involved. I need a deputy here. So they go and they talk to that. It was a female driver, and she was complaining about the other person was a male driver. Come to find out, she's like, yeah, I was this guy was road rage incident, and I was really scared, so I was following him and trying to get his information for the police. And the deputy was like, okay, well, someone else called in. He didn't say this, but it was me. And your tag was given as the person that blocked this other car in the intersection and approached him in a hostile manner and then started chasing him as he was trying to get away. And she was like, no, that didn't happen. He was like, well, it seems like this other caller might be credible, so that I think I don't think we're going to arrest the guy that you were chasing after a road rage incident.
How about wait time? Like, is it like the most understaffed position in America or just in LA? If you call 911, you might be on hold for 15 minutes.
No kidding.
Really?
That's
Yeah, crazy.
Yeah, no joke.
I'd heard that before, but I didn't think that was real. I thought that was just like a rumor.
Sounds fake, right?
It does.
It's no one's. You know what? Probably what it is. No, I don't even know. I was gonna say people aren't signing up for it because then it's got fixed hours and you can't be available for auditions. No, I can't understand. Like, if you have to pay more to get people, pay more to get people. Like, that seems like one of the most necessary jobs, right?
Yeah,
I think there's a high turnover rate. It is definitely high stress. And like she was describing, and I've been in these call centers before. They are doing a lot all at once because they're taking the call, they're dispatching the units, they're getting everything together, they're getting information. And just kind of like we talked to with all the first responder stuff, like it is just intense scenarios all day long. And for the medics on the street, you do the call, you drop them off. You got a little bit of time in between, whereas they're just boom, 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 right after the next all day long. I imagine that is a really tough job with a lot of stress and high turnover.
Yeah. And I have to listen to these 911 calls for court cases sometimes. And man, they just put up with so much crap from people. Really surprising how little kind of appreciation it is. Now, some people are panicked. They're not thinking clearly, so they're kind of short with the dispatcher, and they understand that. But some people are just straight up rude,
Right. And then you're recorded. Your call is recorded. And it's this high stress thing. They might be being antagonistic. And if you slip up a little bit, the city's getting sued for $10 million. How about if we all say how much you'd have to pay us to be a 911 dispatcher?
I don't think that's it. People have your podcast on Connor v. Cobb. You talk about like, how much would you do this for? How much would you do that? And what's interesting is a lot of it is, if you didn't have to do your job and you got a pay raise or the same amount, but you could do this other thing. Like I honestly, I don't think I would do nothing for a lot of money. And I don't think I would do many different jobs for the same amount of money. Like, I think I'm fortunate.
Wait a minute. You wouldn't retire if you could keep your salary?
Yeah, sure. I do that.
Oh, okay.
But if it's like, cause on your podcast, it's like, you have to watch the same movie, 4 times a day or something like that. Like
5 days.
That's like, if I have a commitment to something and that's what I'm doing and it's the same pay, I'd rather just keep doing what I'm doing. I don't want to do
higher stress, man.
There's something to be said about job satisfaction.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that.
Yeah, but you got a lot of notes and stuff. You got to address your notes. Your department's the only one that has any accountability. That's maybe
no.
Specific,
don't get me wrong.
But
yeah, don't get me wrong. I think the constant stress, the unknowns, the high stakes, like the most dangerous things that could be happening are coming to you, and you are responsible for making sure they're less dangerous. No, thank you. No, thank you. It's the same reason I wouldn't want to be a road deputy. I wouldn't want to be out on the road. I just don't think I'm not equipped to handle that. Split second decisions and that kind of stress, and certainly not as a, having a family. No, thank you. I don't think I want to take that home. That's too much. No. So how much would it take? I couldn't tell you. I don't think that job's fit for me.
Number.
Is this a segment we're doing? Would you do that job?
Well, I'm just saying 911 dispatcher. It's just it seems like the most stressful, thankless job.
Thankless.
I think thankless.
That's a big part of it.
The other thing that there's almost a bizarre kind of like voyeuristic quality to it of like you're there, but you're not. You're kind of on the periphery of it. And it reminds me almost like, this is a weird analogy, but like of like a drone pilot or something. Like it's almost not real. because you're not there, you're not actually seeing it or doing it, but you're hearing it and you're seeing it and you're kind of there on the periphery. That's just got to be an odd way to kind of wrap your head around it.
I'm really appreciative Beth and people like her do that job because it's obviously super important, but not for me. So we've all decided we're not going to quit our jobs and go into 911 dispatch or podcasting full time. Both of those seem like bad ideas.
We'd probably have better luck as dispatchers, if we're being honest.
Sure. I tell you what, more people would listen to it.
Yeah.
We get at least 100 listens in court every month.
Yeah, exactly.
How is there not? There are all these shows, all these like emergency service shows. There's no 911 or 911 dispatcher.
Well, because they're just sitting in a dark room all day long.
Yeah, that's true. It's just taking calls.
Yeah, but they also have like Ghost Whisperer. So like it's not because it's a dumb idea. Like they've made shows out of like worse premises.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's a good point. Or at least incorporate it into some of these police shows, right? Some of these cop shows, the dispatch center. Like have a recurring character that's like the dispatcher or something.
Yeah.
All right, Ryan, write it.
I'm on it, man.
Yeah. You've always been wanting to do a procedural.
My idea for the manager of the call center, his name, well, can you use the same name as someone who plays for the Toronto Raptors as long as he doesn't look like him and you're not saying it is the guy from the Toronto Raptors?
How many people are going to know a person from the Toronto Raptors?
You're not going to believe it, but a lot of people watch the NBA. It's
Not
a professional sports league. Well, there's a guy named Grady Dick, and it just seems like a good name for someone who's working in a call center.
That sounds like something that should be like gross or dirty, but it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, penicillin will clean that up. And so the listeners don't know this, but Ryan and Adrian, sometimes Eric, don't know who's coming on. I have some guests lined up, and we're going to have I'll say this, in the realm of first responders is going to be a bit of a theme for the first half of this year. And I am jazzed about it because, the whole premise of the podcast is the people you don't get to hear from on the front lines very often. And I think we got some pretty good ones coming up. So I'm excited about it.
I tell you what, if you want to, you can also just tell us who they are.
That's so much less fun.
No, because then we could know information. Because it's not like you're like, oh, it's going to be a surprise. And then, and then you're like, it's an Alaskan state trooper. It's not like it's Scottie Pippen or something. Like we're going to be like, fuck yeah. Like, that's my favorite state trooper. Like you can just tell
that
us.
part doesn't need to be a surprise, but like just not knowing the stories.
Yeah.
All
exactly.
right, fine.
Exactly.
Okay, so all right, so let me know from now on.
Tell us the job.
When any of us find a guest and get somebody that wants to be on the podcast and we schedule them, we will know the profession.
Good.
I'll give you the heads up of the profession. Okay, all right, that's fair enough. It's true.
It's very cute though that you wanted to surprise us, like
cute
Papa Frank. Papa Frank wanting to surprise his little kids. We got a policeman coming to the classroom today.
Fine. You guys want to be professional and prepared? Fine. I'll play that game. I'll let you know. Anyway, I'm glad that you can be a grown up about this and wait to do this on the air. Thank you. Unless there's anything you guys want to cover, I think that probably covers it for this episode. Ryan and Adrian, it's good to have you back. Ryan, anything you want to plug? I mentioned it during the show, Connor v. Cobb. Check that out.
Same stuff as usual.
Podcast.
Just Connor vs. Cobb. It's on YouTube now too. The video service online, as well as my special live from DC and my book, The Party.
All right, I think that's going to do it for us. And thanks everybody for listening. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Music for Baggage provided by Quincy Ledbetter. You can find his stuff at qledbetter.com. Graphics provided by Megan Weaver. You can find her at meganweaverart.com. Special thanks to our premium members for their support. You can become a premium member by clicking subscribe in your Apple Podcast app or by visiting thebaggagepodcast.com/support to sign up or to gift a membership to someone. A percentage of all proceeds go to charity. If you have any questions, comments, or a good story to share, please email us at thebaggagepodcast@gmail.com.